Welcome back, Greenville Triumph Weekly. Time to catch up with Chris Ashley. Yeah, that soccer show. And, welcome back, first and foremost. It's another season.
Yeah, another season. Honestly, wasn't sure when or if it was going to happen and whether it should happen, but here we are, and regardless of all that, we're excited to have some soccer to watch.
What do you think of the format and the sprint that it's going to be?
Well, to be honest, John, I'm not sure if I really know what it's going to be. I know they had released their plans, and then a few days later, Toronto FC 2 said, nope, we're done. So I'm sure that's thrown them for a curveball, which is probably the reason we don't have a schedule beyond this opening weekend up to this point. So I don't know. I was okay with the format, with the exception of they were doing this regional rivalry thing. And they paired Greenville with Richmond, which I thought was really interesting because they put Chattanooga with Tormenta. Now, last year the league made such a big deal about Greenville and Tormenta building this rivalry. And I feel like the difference between Greenville to Richmond and Chattanooga to Richmond has got to be negligible, to where I don't understand why they didn't pair those two as regional rivals.
Right.
But I didn't hate the format. I thought they're trying to make the best of a bad situation and trying to reduce travel as much as possible. And anything that gets soccer going and gets this league kind of moving forward, I think is good for these teams. I definitely don't want to see a situation where a team has to fold after this year because they're not financially sustainable to do it with everything that's happening. So just happy to get soccer back.
When you look at the Triumph's presence in the community while we were waiting for a season to happen, what was it like to see them still active, still being a part of the fabric, which we knew was a part of their DNA to begin with, but in this new normal and in this special season that we're having here, what was it like to see them staying involved?
I mean, I think in some ways it was kind of a blessing for the Triumph, just because everything has been shut down. So we've not had baseball, we've not had basketball, we've not had hockey, we've not had football. None of that normal stuff that would maybe conflict with the Triumph kind of getting their name out there has been around. And so as they've done things like the Match to Triumph, as they've done other things to be present in the community, that has made them even more visible. I've seen them on the 6 o'clock news locally probably a dozen times over this break, which is incredible considering there's been no games played and nothing really to report in terms of signings or wins or schedule. Really no information other than what they're making it out to do. They are making their own news and making their presence felt, and I think that's been really good. And I think they've handled their supporters in a tremendous way. I mean, as a season ticket holder, I got a personal telephone call from the president, Chris Lewis, explaining to me, hey, here's kind of the situation. This was a month and a half ago maybe. And then obviously in the last week or so getting kind of the update on here's what your tickets are going to look like for this year, for next year, how we're going to handle it going forward. So, I mean, it's been incredible that they've been able to kind of keep their face out in the community.
When you look at the roster this year, obviously there's turnover from year to year. Folks retire, they move on, they do other things. There's it's the nature of the beast when it comes to the sport. What are you most looking forward to from the newer faces this year?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think Greenville is kind of blessed in the sense that they are bringing back a very solid, strong core, probably more players than I expected to come back. I think that bodes well for them, being one of the better teams last year and being able to kind of roll that continuity and chemistry and another year under Coach Harks' system. But there are some new guys that they have added that were some of the best players in the league last year, just not for Greenville. Alex Morrell, who was playing down in South Georgia, and Brandon Fricky, adding an even stronger piece to the back line in Greenville. You know, they lose Kevin Pollitz, but you're adding a guy who was a captain of that team up in Lansing to anchor the back line down here and just solidifying that back line for Greenville even more. But for me personally, in watching the preseason games all the way back in February, the guy that really caught my eye was a guy named Lachlan McLean from Australia. This is his first professional contract. He's going to play up top. I think maybe more of a traditional bigger striker in the realm of a Josie Altidore, a Giassi Sardis kind of guy, a hold-up play, but he can score goals. And he has been one that I have really enjoyed watching the little bit I've gotten to see him. So he's the one I've got my eye out on the most.
What about some of the vets that are coming back?
I mean, look, it starts between the sticks. Dallas J is obviously the best goalkeeper in the league last year. Got that strong back line with Evan Lee and Tyler Pollock coming back. Aaron Walker, the heart of this team, he's coming back. And then you've got some of the exciting talents like a Carlos Gomez who really came on at the end of last season, Omar Muhammad, Jake Keegan, bringing back a lot of really solid pieces. And honestly, I talked about this on my podcast this week. Greenville's in a unique situation that it's hard to find a quote-unquote best 11 because they have so many pieces on this team that could be starters for any team. And so, there's probably more like a best 14 or 15. And so it's going to be interesting to see how Coach Harks lines up from week to week. And I think that, especially with a condensed schedule, that's going to play into Greenville's favor.
I was going to say, with schedule compression, you're going to need those deep rosters, and you're going to need to have folks with experience in short schedules and trying to get results done quickly because, it's Wednesday, Saturday, a couple of instances, and they're quick turnarounds. But to have that deep roster, I think, is going to help out. And the teams that can learn to adjust on the fly, I think that they're the ones, especially if you can get out to hot starts coming out in the sprint, I think that's going to be beneficial.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think Greenville, again, I think having that continuity from last year to this year with the roster is really going to help them get off to a fast start. They started really slow last season, but I think this year they've got a chance to come in and maybe be off to one of the hottest starts in the league, which is going to help them because a single table, no playoffs, top two teams in the championship, that's going to be a lot harder the spots are a lot fewer in terms of getting there to the end and trying to put a star over the crest.
When you look at the rest of League One, what are some of your other top storylines coming into league play?
Well, I mean, I think you got to look at obviously Toronto not being there is a big story because that means this is down to an 11-team league for this season. Somebody's going to have a bye every match day. You've got two brand new teams coming in New England Revolution 2 and Fort Lauderdale CF, which I still have a hard time wrapping my head around saying that. And then, I think you look at a team like North Texas last year that was the best team in the league far and away in a lot of ways, but just by the nature of being the developmental team for FC Dallas, a lot of those key pieces have moved on. So there's going to be a lot of turnover there, and that team is, I think, going to suffer for that. I mean, granted, FC Dallas has a great academy system. They're probably going to plug in some great players, but it's going to take them a while, I think, to get up to speed. So I really think the advantage this year is going to go to some of these independent teams who have a lot of continuity from year to year. The Forward Madisons, the Chattanooga Red Wolves, the Richmond Kickers, and even down in South Georgia with Tormenta. I think those are the teams that are going to probably start off the strongest, and then we'll see how these other teams catch up. And obviously, one of the big things to keep an eye on, Union Omaha, a team that I think there's a lot of excitement around, but we don't really know much about them yet. And so I'll be interested to see them take the field for the first time as well.
Blatant promo time, Chris, for those that want to catch up with your show on a weekly basis and grab one of your hats, which is one of the best fitting hats around. For someone like me who can't handle the elastic, and likes the adjustables because the elastics give me headaches. To have your adjustable and to have your YTSS adjustable in the beast, ready to go at a moment's notice, it's always good. Blatant promo, hit me with everything.
Yeah, so That Soccer Show is the podcast. It's available on just about every podcatcher you can imagine. GVLsoccer.com is where I do previews and recaps on the team if you like to read more than listen. You can follow me on Twitter with the podcast at YTSS Podcast, at That Soccer Show on Facebook and Instagram. And then if you want to follow me personally for all my spiciest takes, I rebranded, John, in the off-season. I rebranded to at GVL Soccer Guy. Just seemed more applicable to the things I'm using social media for, so make sure you follow me there.
And when you comment on everything that's going on Soccer Down here, That's where we go to at GVL Soccer Guy when we know it's Chris Ashley, especially since you're watching on Twitch now, which is kind of fun.
Yeah, the Twitch stream is that's key. That's the place to be.
And Jason does a great job of bouncing all that, because the last thing you need to do is trust me with technology. Chris, we will catch up with you on the next episode of the show. Thanks for hanging out, and play on.
Sounds good.